This is your USMNT Abroad weekend update from November 10th to November 12th of 2023. Hi, if you're here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to the US Men's National Team Abroad series, where every single Monday we update you on how the Yanks did abroad over the weekend. And it's US Men's National Team week. Yes, the United States Men's National Team has a match against Trinidad and Tobago this Thursday. But before we start, I am not gonna lie. It was a pretty bad weekend for the Yanks abroad. I am not gonna sugarcoat it. It was bad. It was poo-poo, caca, crap. However, there's still a lot to talk about. And it's also not all doom and gloom. There's a lot that we can learn from poor performances, the same way we learn a lot from good performances. And hopefully the Yanks abroad have a good weekend once they're back from the international break. Also, last week we did do the best 9 in CONCACAF video, who's the best center forward in CONCACAF. It's a very good video in my own humble opinion, breaking down the stats and trying to determine who is currently the best striker that CONCACAF has. Which I guess there was some poor timing there, because ever since we did the video, actually even before the video, Balogun, Santi Jimenez, Jonathan David have been just dropping stinkers for the past 4 to 5 games. Like, seriously. I mean, David has been bad all season long. Balogun is having ups and downs with Monaco, but I literally jinxed Santi Jimenez. This guy was scoring every single game, but ever since we decided to make the video, he just stopped scoring, and I'm proud of it. But whatever, I'll put the link on the description of the video if you want to watch the best center forward in CONCACAF video that we made, and you can drop a like on this video to try to get it to 1,000 likes for absolutely no reason. Okay, let's begin. As always, we start with the top leagues in Europe, and the first one will be the English Premier League. Right away, Matt Turner, that's the first player we always talk about. He's been benched, and he's a goalkeeper. So once you're benched as a goalkeeper, you only play when the goalkeeper gets a red or injured. So he stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Nottingham Forest. The other player also sat on the bench the full 90 minutes, but he's not a goalkeeper. That's Chris Richards from Crystal Palace. Yeah, he's also behind Joaquin Anderson and Mark Gehi, and he won't play unless one of those players are injured or just sold. So Turner and Richards combined for 0 minutes, which kind of sucks because those are two very important players for the U.S. men's national team's defense. I mean, it's our starting center back and our starting goalkeeper. But let's move on to an American that actually played in the English Premier League, and his name is Austin Trusty from Sheffield United. On Sunday, Trusty started and played the full 90 minutes for Sheffield United during their 1-1 draw with Brighton, and honestly, this is quite an impressive result for Sheffield. I did not expect them to draw Brighton. Let's go to other Americans that play a lot in the English Premier League, and they are A-Rob and Tim Ream from Fulham. On Sunday, A-Rob and Ream both started and played the full 90 minutes for Fulham during their 3-1 loss to Aston Villa. Anthony Robinson actually got an assist this match. He assisted Raul Jimenez for a tap-in. However, A-Rob also scored an own goal. Last but not least, in the English Premier League section, we have Luca Koleosho from Burnley, the Italian-American winger. On Saturday, Koleosho started and played 80 minutes for Burnley during their 3-1 loss to Arsenal. For Burnley's goal, Koleosho was highly involved as he tried to beat the defender down the left flank, failed to do so, but was able to get the ball back in a scrappy way. He went on to cross the ball, it got somewhat cleared, or was a poor clearance, and then Burnley scored. I'm not going to lie, credit to him, the goal would not have happened without him, but it was more or less a kick and run, hustle play. That's what it was. Let's just call it as it is. However, I do think Koleosho is actually a very good player already with a high ceiling that I hope the US men's national team is able to recruit. At the moment, he is with the Italian U21s for this international break. I don't know if he's going to actually show up to camp. He was also called in last time, but he didn't go because, you know, injuries. He didn't go to the U21 camp to stay with Burnley, but he literally played for Burnley right after. But maybe he'll be with Italy this time. I guess we'll know the next 7 or 10 days. But what I do want to say is that I think many of the US men's national team fans are overhyping Koleosho for a few reasons. Them being, One, the league he plays in the Premier League, which is the best league in the world. But again, just because you play in the Premier League, it doesn't mean you're actually in the Premier League level. Look at Burnley. I mean, they're pretty much a EFL championship side in the Premier League. But the other reason they're hyping him is his age. He's young, promising, has potential, a high ceiling. The other reason is that he is a dual national. And these days, if you're a dual national, you get hyped. And then lastly, we lack a lot of depth on the wings, so I understand a lot of the US men's national team fans being hyped for a winger. Now, don't get me wrong, he would be a massive addition for the US men's national team and he has good potential, but as I said, he's actually not English Premier League level yet, based on what I'm seeing and honestly the data as well. Just because you play in the Premier League, it doesn't mean you are at that level currently, which is fine. He's just 19. I just want to make it clear that he's not killing it in the Premier League, as some seem to say. I even saw someone say that Koleosho is among the best dribblers in the world, which that take kind of reminds me of when some people were saying Tyler Adams was a top 5 or top 3 central defensive midfielder in the Premier League, which is also not accurate. Even though Tyler Adams is actually Premier League level, but he's definitely not a top 5 player in any position in the Premier League. With that said, let's keep track of Koleosho's performances, hope he develops and picks the US men's national team. As we do know, Greg Berhalter has been in touch. So we're done with England. Now we head to Italy, and we're going to talk about the Italian Serie A. So why don't we start with the Americans that play for Milan, which are Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musa. On Saturday, Musa started off on the bench and was subbed in at halftime for Milan during their 2-2 draw with Lecce. I think I pronounced their name right. Usually I get Italian names right because Italian is very similar to Portuguese. But back to the game. Where should I even start? Let's start by calling a spade a spade. And Musa's performance was awful, like really not good. Now that we got that out of the way, let's add some context to it. Not excuses, but some context. Yunus Musa was sent in as a right back. Then eventually, after the second goal that Lecce scored, tying the game, he played more or less on the wing. I saw him a little bit on the left wing, then sometimes on the right wing. Regardless, he wasn't great out wide in general in this match, whether it was going forward or defending. But that's not an excuse. His turnover, which was a terrible decision regardless of the position that he was playing for, where he was trying to beat 2 men while playing as a right back, was what led to Lecce scoring the second goal to tie the match. But it wasn't just that. The overall performance, even without that bad moment, seemed to be very mediocre. He seemed lost at times. And a bit of that is on Pioli for playing him out of position. But again, that's not an excuse for Musa's performance. Like, the turnover that led to the goal literally has nothing to do with your position. Which, this is one thing I've noticed about a lot of the Americans abroad. They have a thing that for coaches, it's a strength, which is versatility. But when you look at it from the player's perspective, being versatile might not actually be that good. And we even heard Weston Mckennie talk about this in the past, how he doesn't like really the fact that he is versatile. There's a position that he thinks he plays best, and he would like to keep playing in that position. But because he's versatile, coaches keep playing them all over the place. Musa is another example. And being versatile might get you more minutes in general, but you will struggle to develop and pick up good form in a specific position. You essentially become what I call a duck. You know, a duck player, the bird. You can do everything, but everything you do is somewhat, done poorly. Ducks can walk, but they suck at it. They fly, but they also suck at it. They swim, they also suck at swimming. And even when they poop poorly. Like, they're not even good at pooping. So again, it's good to have a few players that are versatile in your roster, but not your main players. And a lot of the American players, a lot of the main American players, the stars that we have, are utilized in many different positions because they're versatile, like Tim Weah, Weston Mckennie, Christian Pulisic when he was playing for Chelsea, Yunus Musa right now. And in my opinion, that's not very good. Oh, in regards to Christian Pulisic, as you may know, he is injured. He's expected to be back right after the international break, but he was not available for Milan. Last but not least, in Italy, we have Weston Mckennie and Tim Weah from Juventus. And on Saturday, Mckennie started and played the full 90 minutes for Juve during their 2-1 win over Cagliari in the Serie A. Tim Weah was not available as he's currently injured and out of the US men's national team camp as well. By as well, I'm referring to Pulisic. They're both out. Weston McKennie will be there. Now, Weston McKennie's performance, he mainly played as a midfielder, and honestly, he played very well. Just a very good game from Weston, helping Juventus get the win. Weston McKennie might actually be the most informed United States player when it comes to the starters right now, looking at their club performance coming into this camp, till the point where Forza Juve on Twitter, or X, whatever the kids call it these days, complimented Weston McKennie, asking if we have ever seen him put up a bad performance. I'm pretty sure that account has pooped on Weston McKennie in the past, unfairly, and a lot of the Juventus fans as well. And I do want to add that the title race in Italy is looking more likely to be between Juventus and Inter Milan, as it looks like Milan has fallen off quite a bit and Napoli's not having a good season as they had last season. It's still early, but it looks like it'll be between those two, Juventus and Inter Milan. Time to go to Germany. So let's go to the Bundesliga, and we'll start by talking about Gio Reyna from Borussia Dortmund. On Saturday, Gio Reyna started off on the bench and was subbed in at the 63rd minute for Dortmund during their 2-1 loss to Stuttgart. In terms of performance, he wasn't great, but he also wasn't awful, especially when you compare him to other Dortmund players in this specific match. Borussia Dortmund was awful in the first half. They were better in the second one, but also not great. I guess we could say that Gio Reyna just matched their energy, which wasn't awful in the second half, but as I said, it wasn't great either. The thing is, some people tried to say and try to tell me that Terzic was doing a good job. He is not. And he wasn't last season, and he currently isn't now. Dortmund is pretty much out of the title race in the Bundesliga 11 matches into the Bundesliga season. And I know you might say, Filippo, it's still early. How can you say that? Well, they're currently 8 points away from Bayern, and they're also quite far from Leverkusen as well. I don't know about Leverkusen. We'll see how they do later in the season, but I can assure you that Dortmund ain't catching up. 8 points, an 8-point gap with Bayern. They're not catching up to that. It's not happening. It's just common sense. And I really hope for Dortmund's sake and Gio Reyna's sake that Terzic just gets fired by the end of the season or at some point. Next up is Brenden Aaronson from Union Berlin. And on Sunday, Aaronson started off on the bench and was subbed in the final 24 minutes for Union Berlin during their 4-0 loss to Leverkusen. That is 13 losses and 1 draw in the last 14 matches. This team might actually get relegated, which would mean Brenden Aaronson is about to get back-to-back relegation seasons. And here's a serious question to you. You can let me know in the comment section down below. Would it not have been better for Brenden to have stayed with Leeds? I know he probably would have gotten bullied in the EFL Championship, but isn't that more of his level based on what we have been seeing? I think it's a fair question to ask. But then you might also ask, would he even start for Leeds these days? Next up would have been John Brooks from Hoffenheim, but he stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes once again for the second consecutive match, which probably means that Pellegrino Matarazzo, the American manager, has actually benched John Brooks for now. So let's skip on Brooks and go to Joe Scally from Borussia Mönchengladbach and Kevin Paredes from Wolfsburg because they clashed over the weekend. And on Friday, Paredes and Scally started. Paredes for Wolfsburg and Joe Scally for Gladbach. Two 20-year-old Americans starting in the Bundesliga. Not bad. Not bad at all. Scally went the full 90 minutes and Kevin Paredes played 67 minutes during Gladbach's 4-0 win. So Paredes lost this one. It was honestly a fantastic performance from Joe Scally. He was rock solid on defense, got an assist, and won most of his ground and aerial duels. The best player for Gladbach's back line, in my honest opinion. He does also look like a center back to me at times, so he could probably play there more often. He could be a center back, in my opinion, probably in a back three. As for Kevin Paredes, he did okay for Wolfsburg. The team had an awful performance, but he wasn't really the problem. I would say he was probably among the best performers for Wolfsburg, which was a pretty low bar, but still, that's fine. Pifok was not available for Gladbach because he is currently injured. Now, I would have updated you on Paxton Aaronson, but he stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes this weekend for Eintracht Frankfurt. So let's skip on Aaronson and go to Leonard Maloney from Heidenheim. I nailed it. I got it. That's the name. Heidenheim. On Saturday, Maloney started and played 61 minutes for Heidenheim during their 4-2 loss to Bayern. There were some reports that he picked up a knock in the first half and kept playing. I'm not sure because I didn't really find any reports saying that Maloney is actually injured, and he should be with the US men's national team by the time you're watching this, so I'm assuming he is all right. We're done with Germany. Let's go to Spain and talk about Luca de la Torre from Celta de Vigo. On Friday, Luca de la Torre was back from injury and he started off on the bench and was subbed in the 69th minute. Nice. For Celta de Vigo during their 4-3 loss to Athletic Bilbao in La Liga. And Celta de Vigo are currently in the relegation zone. And that's all the Americans we have in Spain for now. So let's go to France and talk about Folarin Balogun from Monaco. On Saturday, Balogun was benched for Monaco, so that's where he started, and he was subbed in around the 71st minute during their 0-0 draw with Havre. I think I pronounced their name right. I'm not really the Frenchiest Frenchman to ever French. He didn't do much in those limited minutes. He also wasn't really getting any service, so it's hard to blame him. He was able to get a nice shot on target towards the end of the match, but there's really nothing else to comment in regards to his performance. For the same match, there was another American playing. His name is Emmanuel Sabi, and he came off the bench for Havre, not Monaco, Havre, right before Balogun. Sabi also didn't do much. I also don't rate him anyway, but he accidentally was able to draw a penalty kick because the opponent just kind of stepped on him and he was just standing there. It was an accident. Obviously, they wasted the penalty kick because the match ended 0-0. I already told you that. And that's all I have to say about it. Balogun hasn't really been great the past 4 matches, and hopefully these 2 matches against Trinidad for the United States, he can stat pad, get his form up, and confidence. And again, go watch that CONCACAF Best 9 video. You're going to get a better perspective from the data of who is Balogun, who is Santi, who is better, and much more. Even though most of it is subjective. Not really. Balogun is better. So we're done with the top 5 leagues. So we're going to go to the Netherlands now, to the Eredivisie. And we're going to start with the Americans that play for PSV. And they are Malik Tillman, Serginho Dest, and Ricardo Pepi. On Sunday, Dest started for PSV during their 4-0 win over Zwolle, which kind of looks like Swole. No, just Zwolle. I guess that's the name. Dest was subbed out at the 79th minute, and Tillman and Pepi both started off the bench. However, Tillman was subbed in at the 70th minute, and Pepi was subbed in at the 79th minute. But the highlight of this game for us, US men's national team fans, was a beautiful goal scored by Tillman that was assisted by Dest. It was truly beautiful. Almost as beautiful as the Star-Spangled Banner. Almost. Not quite. This is how the goal played out. Dest drove inside in this play. He combined with Tillman and De Jong, which leads on to Dest setting up Tillman with a beautiful, I guess I could call it a no-look back pass, or maybe sort of a no-look Rabona pass to Tillman. I don't know, man. It was something Magic Johnson would do in the NBA. That's the best way to describe it. And then Tillman, with a very well-composed finish, ended up scoring for PSV. And I know the opponent was dead by then in the game. The match was already 3-0. But we can still appreciate this goal because it was a beauty. PSV has also won their first 12 matches of the season in the Eredivisie, which is quite impressive. They have also scored 3 goals or more for 11 consecutive matches in the league. No team has ever accomplished that. Quite impressive. Now we have 2 more Americans to talk about in the Eredivisie. They are Taylor Booth from Utrecht and Jordi Mihailovic from AZ Alkmaar. Did they face each other over the weekend? No, it's just that I don't really have anything significant to say about it. Taylor Booth started and played like 60 minutes and was subbed out injured again. I feel like this guy gets injured every other week. Taylor Booth is always freaking injured, which sucks because he's a talented player. And Jordi Mihailovic stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes once again for AZ Alkmaar. Now we're going to go back to the United Kingdom to update you on the Americans that play in England, on the 2nd Division of England, and in Scotland. Well, the 2nd Division of England, the only American worth reporting on right now, because the other ones are not doing well or are not really in the USMNT picture at the moment. One of them is Josh Sargent from Norwich, but he's still recovering from the ankle injury. So let's go to Scotland and talk about Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic. On Sunday, Carter-Vickers started and played the full 90 minutes for Celtic during their 6-0 win against Aberdeen. He seriously needs to find a better league. The Scottish League just doesn't cut it, man. Now let's quickly go through the Americans that play in Belgium, very quickly. The first one being Gaga Slonina from Eupen, and on Saturday, Slonina started and played the full 90 minutes for Eupen during their 3-1 loss to Molenbeek. Next one is Mark Mckennie from Genk, and on Sunday, Mckennie started and played the full 90 minutes for Genk during their 3-1 win over Leuven. Sam Vines from Antwerp is still injured. This guy is also always injured. And then you have Brian Reynolds from Westerlo, because on Friday, Reynolds started and played the full 90 minutes for Westerlo during their 3-3 draw with STVV. And Reynolds got an assist this match. Now, I was also going to cover the Americans in the Italian second division this weekend, but nothing really happened. Christopher Lund even came off the bench in the last 5 minutes of the match for Palermo, so I'm not going to be addressing that. We'll update you in like 2 or 3 weeks about the Americans in the second division of Italy. So let's leave Europe very quickly to talk about Johnny Cardoso from Internacional in Brazil. Saturday, Johnny started and played 79 minutes for Internacional during their 3-0 loss to Palmeiras in the Brasileirão. Inter's season is pretty much done at this point, and it showed this match. They didn't really seem to care. The second Palmeiras goal was honestly mostly on Johnny. He had a lot of blame. He took a bad touch, was dispossessed on the build-out, and the ball landed with no one less than Endrick. And then Endrick punished Internacional with a powerful strike from outside of the box. Look, I don't want to make any excuses here, but if Johnny's mistake landed on any other Palmeiras player besides Endrick, it probably would not have been a goal, and we wouldn't even be talking about it. So it was a mix of a bad moment and bad luck. Regardless, this was one of the worst performances that Johnny had all season long. I was upset because of it, but was a bit happy because I'm a Palmeiras fan, so I guess I can kind of deal with it. But that's it for Johnny. The next player plays in Mexico, and that is Alejandro Zendejas from Club America. On Saturday, Zendejas started and played the full 90 minutes for Club America during their 0-0 draw with Tigres. And then I also want to give a shout out to US Men's National Team U20 star Rokas Pukstas that plays in Croatia, because he scored a beautiful back heel goal over the weekend. So shout out to Rokas Pukstas. We might actually start covering him a bit more here at the channel. He is extremely talented. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go. It's US Men's National Team Week. We'll be doing the full coverage here at the channel. We're actually going to be going to the game and doing a vlog for you and much more. Pre-game, 7 things we learned, all of that. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit the like button, comment something for the YouTube algorithm, and that's all. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.